Hello. I
Hi.
hope everyone's well and good. So today we have Ica, also known as CreativeMePodcast. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, everyone kind of gets my name wrong a bit. It's Ica.
Ica, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's alright. It's alright. It's all
Yeah.
good.
How have
Yeah.
you been so far?
Good. I'm okay. Yeah, just kind of like, I was kind of like the past month has been very kind of hectic and busy.
Mhm.
Um, just on social media and just kind of having like a lot of kind of like things like this Zoom call kind of meetings as well. And so I'm sure I'll kind of get into all the ins and outs of that during our chat.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited on it because we've planned this for so long, but so much stuff
We
has happened
did.
that it's just been delayed.
Yeah. Yeah,
Here now.
and yeah, so I'm definitely glad to kind of be here and obviously chat with you as well, Megan. I think as well, like I kind of first met you was that last year at the Look Again Petra Future talk. You invited me, I think,
Yeah.
and I remember I think you organised a talk with a lot of like female artists and creatives leading in their kind of industry, from all over different parts of Scotland. So that was really inspiring. I really enjoyed that day as well. So well done for like putting that all together.
Yeah, it's just had to be done. Like we just had
Yeah,
to do something. So I'm so
mm,
so glad that we're able to do this. So it's so
yeah, awesome.
so I thought we could kind of kick things off by you just
Mm.
introducing yourself in a bit more depth and kind of
Yeah.
how you got to where you are today, basically.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Ica Headlam, and I kind of do kind of lots of different kind of things. I've just kind of just recently accepted and called myself a creative practitioner, podcast host. I'm a social worker. I have a small business. I champion Northeast artists and creatives through Creative Podcast. And then that's kind of like developed into me creating a new platform called We Are Here Scotland, in which I'm kind of promoting Black artists and creators across Scotland as well. So yeah, I guess that's kind of a nutshell, kind of what I kind of do and stuff. And it's definitely been like a long kind of journey to kind of get to here. But I think at this kind of moment in time, like especially in 2020, I feel that all the kind of things I'm doing is very kind of like important, and I've just kind of started to kind of get to grips with actually kind of valuing the work that I've been doing. It's been like 2.5 years of doing a podcast. This is actually the third year now. I've been doing this for like yeah, 3 years in November, like 80 something plus episodes. So I'm kind of like taking a step back and actually now reflecting on all these kind of little small achievements and actually kind of saying, oh yeah, that's amazing. Stuff that I kind of like thought about doing, putting that into action, then seeing where it is now. I think that's going to definitely be very kind of important for me and like and this journey that I'm still on.
Mm. Yeah, it's been cool, like to see
Yeah,
even from last year to see
mm,
where you've come now. Like there's been a
yeah,
huge jump, and it's been
yeah,
great to see that.
mm. Yeah. No, it's definitely been a thing. I think this is like I think what I kind of recognize that beyond the kind of even like social media presence and stuff, like not everyone does engage with social media. And for me, I kind of felt like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, like the more followers you get, what I was getting is like the more engaging that people are with the everything that I'm kind of putting out, the content I'm putting out. I think in actuality, it's about the word of mouth. It's been about people who I may follow online, and they kind of pass it on to their friends or colleagues. I think that's going to be something that's going to really helps like the podcast. Someone actually messaged me a couple of weeks ago and said, oh, like her mum just recommended my podcast to her. Like, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Oh,
Yeah, that was really cool to kind of like see. So I kind of just have to kind of like just laugh about that. I think, oh, that's really nice. Then that that's the kind of aim of like what I wanted to do, not just kind of connect to people online, but also the people, just like from that word of mouth kind of thing, that kind of like 6 degrees of kind of separation. I think that's it. It's just like getting to like that kind of stage now to be like, oh, it doesn't matter how many people are following you. If one person just tunes in and listens and then they share, what you're putting out there, then that's something that's where that's a good start. So I think like that's the kind of thing that I'm definitely kind of like um, started to kind of take on board more and actually kind of like think about more and actually reflect on, of actually saying, okay, what I'm doing is good, but don't always kind of get caught up in that hype of like social media of like your followers and how many people engage you. Because some people just follow you just to say, oh, I heard about this, I'm just going to follow, but they don't really engage you at your platform. So I think, everything that I kind of do, yes, it's kind of been that kind of time to be like, there's still so much more I want to do. And like, so it's just like, I still feel like even like my podcast is still in its early stages of everything that I want to do with it. And me as a creative practitioner as well. So yeah, it's been, I really enjoy this experience.
Hmm. Oh, it's like so inspiring to see though, and
Yeah.
as well
Mhm.
the people that you've had on as well.
Yeah.
All of course mostly based in the northeast of Scotland. Um,
Hmm.
and you're originally from London, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what brought you up to Aberdeen, and what is it about Aberdeen that um, you thought, okay, maybe a podcast showcasing all these creatives would be beneficial?
Yeah. Well, I came up to Aberdeen because like my now wife, I met her in London and we're together for like 3 and a bit years. And she's not originally from Aberdeen. She moved up from like Lancaster when she was young. Because her dad got a job up here at RGU. So they took all the family up to like New Deer, Tariff, Aberdeenshire. So you can imagine for me, like, initially we just stayed with like my mother-in-law and my wife's stepfather. As I went to like from city boy London, going to the middle of nowhere, going down country roads, they just laughed at me and I kind of said, "Oh, where's all the street lights and stuff?" So my first few months in like Aberdeen was in Aberdeenshire, living in like New Deer, Tariff. So yeah, that was a big kind of culture shock and experience there. But the reason why I kind of just moved up to Aberdeen is just because the kind of like the cost of living in London was so kind of high and expensive that I got to the point where it's like I wanted to study social work and my wife wanted to study nursing, but living in London and both of us wanted to study, like price wise would just be like it's too much. So option was to kind of move up here, and I had to research about going to the college and doing the social care course before I went to RGU. So yeah, I think that was the kind of main reasons for kind of like moving up here. And then in terms of like the how the podcast all got started, it's just from like so some people kind of noticed already that I had a brief kind of history of studying art and design in London when I was younger. I wasn't mature enough. I dropped out. I was very kind of just challenging with my like lectures and stuff. So that was like I kind of just kind of went to more or less just working and just enjoying life. When I was like it was like 17, 18. Um, yes, the age I was then, and then yeah, that always kind of stuck with me. That kind of terms of like being interested in art, going to galleries, exhibitions, creativity, using it in my job when I graduated as a social worker with young people as well. So I remember it was actually yeah, it was 2016. It was January. One of my colleagues who I used to share an office with when I was newly qualified, Lynn. Shout out to Lynn. She was ace.
Hi, Lynn.
Um, yeah, like like she was a manager then in 2016. So and I remember she sent me an email saying like I just got this like email. I said I know like you're really into your art and stuff. And it was like from the creative learning team. I think the creative learning team just set out like a wide citywide kind of email to all the kind of managers in different kind of places with the council and said, hey, if you've got any staff that are interested in kind of learning creative skills to want to work with young people. And I thought, oh, that's really right up my street. So it was called Slack Sustaining Life as a Creative. And I got in touch with Mandy Clark just by email, sent out all the information that they needed. And I got into the program in 2016. I think that's like, I don't know how this is going to happen still, but my work was very accommodating. Like they said, okay, I think because I've done a lot of stuff like within the building, like art and craft stuff with young people, that my managers, like my team leader, my manager was like, oh yeah, that's cool, you get more skills or something. And it was like, all right, that's cool. Just to kind of get at things about like your own kind of development, that kind of like doing those kind of workshops and stuff with the creative learning team. That was like twice a week, or I think it was like every fortnight. So I had like 2 days off of work where I went to go and do this thing, and my work was okay with it. I don't know how still that happened. They must have kind of really appreciated everything I was doing. So that was kind of cool, and I met like really cool people there that I subsequently ended up interviewing over the years as well. So I think after that kind of experience, you're very much hyped, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm so kind of motivated to do everything, like learn so much new things about yourself and how you can kind of maintain a kind of creative career. I thought, okay, I can still do this, and I remember coming back to work and thinking, oh, this I'm going to incorporate all these things. And then the demands of like of my job kind of take over because I'm a social worker. It's just kind of like, okay, you get like child protection cases and all these really, really hard, like disheartening, serious kind of like issues that you're dealing with within the local community. So that kind of like all that kind of creative energy, all that kind of gusto that I had kind of just kind of like went on the sidelines. It was like in 2017, I saw that creative funding Aberdeen City Council was saying, oh look, maybe I think I missed the first round. I think it was like a second round. That's when they used to do like 2 rounds of funding. The
Mm.
start of the year and the middle of the year. So I think I started like the middle of the year one. I said, all right, I like podcasts. I like talking too much. So
I'm bad with
and
that
yeah, and I met some really cool people when I was on the Slack program. I was thinking like, why isn't anyone kind of like, doing like a podcast format to kind of like champion what's happening in the northeast of Scotland? Like I always thought like in the northeast of Scotland, it wasn't getting all that love in compared to like Edinburgh, Glasgow, or Dundee. So I kind of thought like, well, let me just kind of like try this thing of like doing a podcast. And I got so excited about it. I did all my research, did my application for the funding, and the funding got awarded the funding, not everything that, not all the money I asked for, but a decent amount to kind of get like some kind of basic equipment, and that was it. And I remember like everything kind of took a while, and plus because of the like work and just going on holiday with family and stuff. So I think it kind of started in like November 2017. It was like Gary from Dork Skateboards, the first person I interviewed. Then I think it's just like other people after that I started kind of just like messaging people saying, hey, I'm doing a podcast about, this like Northeast artists, creatives, and independent business owners linked in with like the kind of creative community. And that's how it all kind of just basically got started in a very long-winded story for you.
Mm. Oh, that's ace. That's like,
Yeah,
yeah, the story of how you got to where you are now. Yeah, I think a lot
yeah,
of people can learn from that and be like, you know what, just
mhm,
bite the bullet, and like just
yeah,
taking what's around you as well and being like, this is in itself like inspiration to actually start something and not be scared
yeah,
about it. Just, jump in and see what happens.
yeah. I've always been an advocate for. I think for me, even though I do have to kind of practice what I preach, I say like people stepping out of your comfort zone. I think that's just like so important. And I think as well, like there's always kind of been that thing. I think a lot of people. I don't know if like you've kind of ever encountered this when you were studying in Aberdeen. People kind of say, "Oh no, nothing's really happening up here" and stuff. And always kind of felt like, okay, that's like a challenge because like I see Aberdeen as like my second home. I'm a Londoner, born and raised, kind of thing. Like I'm always going to be a Londoner. But it's just kind of like, well, there's lots of things that I appreciate about this city, and I got a lot of love for it. I've made a lot of really close friends as well. So why don't I kind of like speak on something that's kind of like related to what I'm passionate about and show people otherwise? I just think like there's no kind of like I don't think we can like now have to really be in that position to compare ourselves to other cities across the UK and say, oh well, that they're doing this and they're doing that. We should just kind of be like, okay, that's amazing for those cities, but what are we going to do then to kind of like actually say, yeah, we got stuff happening as well?
Mm.
You can always kind of be complacent, but I think like sitting in that kind of complacency, this kind of like creates that ongoing negative space. So we have to kind of be like, well, let's just do something. And if it like, and I kind of thought like when I first started, oh, this will probably be like 5 or 6 kind of episodes, and then it'll be one of those things. You go, you with your mates and you're having a couple of drinks, and you're just like, oh, I remember when you did that kind of podcast thing, it didn't work out. I think one thing for me is about that kind of determination to say, well, if there's something here where it can work, I know this can work. And it's kind of like having this. I don't want to sound pretentious, but I kind of feel like when people are starting something, and then you have to just have this unwavering belief in yourself.
Mm.
I don't think it's about being like arrogant or anything, but I think it's actually saying like, you have to be your biggest, you have to be your own biggest champion. You have to kind of be like, you have to, of course you have some days when you kind of like, oh, I can't be arsed or that the motivation. But when it comes down to it, when you're kind of creating something and you put something out there, you have to be your biggest champion and actually believe in what you're doing. Then subsequently other people that you don't know will start engaging with that as well. Because say like, hey, this guy or this person is, they're dedicated to what they're doing. They actually care about what they're doing. So yeah, we can invest our time in that. We can support this person and you know, their platform. That kind of makes sense.
It did. It made complete sense, and it is
All right.
all super valuable
Yeah.
stuff. I think that's the thing that helped me get to the point of, you know, starting projects and
Yeah.
starting You, for example. Like because for
Mm.
so long I had just been scared to actually start it because I was like, oh, I don't know, you know. And
Yeah.
exactly what you say, that like you just have to believe in yourself and be like, you know what, I want to do this because I think it'll
Yeah.
bring so much good. So just do it, you know, like no one else can do it until you do it, until you have the faith in yourself to actually
Yeah.
go and do it. So
Yeah. And that's it. I kind of feel like, you know, sometimes you can engage with that kind of doubt that kind of speaks to you, and you can kind of be, you know, we can all be self-critical of ourselves and stuff. But I think like, yeah, that kind of thing of like the doubts or the kind of like, or the uncertainty, I was kind of feel like, yeah, that's always going to pop up at different times in anything that you're kind of doing. But it's almost kind of like you have to kind of try and put that to the side and be like, actually, just give it a go. Because if it doesn't even work out, you can be like, well, actually, I gave it a go.
exactly.
I started like, you know, you could be like, well, you know, like for me, I kind of like to see this is like a podcast or doing a small business or doing like the platform like We Are Here Scotland, you know, and you doing this, like, you know, you do you. It's a really important thing because it's actually you know, this has come from you. You've always had this kind of idea, and then you're actually kind of rolling with it. And the more you do it, I think it's like the more confident you get when you do it because you're very much in control of what you're doing as well, and that's very important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree with you. Moving on slightly, what struggles have you faced while doing this podcast and within your kind of creative
Yeah.
journey, if you will?
I think for me, I kind of feel like the struggles have probably been like the personal ones that and I've mentioned this before that I do kind of like struggle kind of relinquishing or
Mm,
like kind of accepting any kind of support. And I kind of realized that yeah, that kind of sometimes coming back to bite me on the arse. Sorry if I can't swear. So I'm sorry, I swore. Um, yeah, that comes back to kind of bite me a bit sometimes, and it's just that kind of like thing. What I've started to kind of accept is like, oh, that's the struggles that I've had of just kind of being like, okay, accepting, you know, help and support. So I'm getting better at it. I'm definitely getting better at that as well. But also kind of feeling like the struggles I've had is, and that's another thing about the whole online kind of presence about feeling that do people actually engage with this? Are people, do they actually care about what I'm doing and stuff? And I guess that's all about an ego kind of thing, like a big ego trip. But yeah, for me, it kind of feels like when you feel like you're doing hard work or you editing episodes or you're interviewing people and you're bigging them up and you kind of feel like, well, oh, the struggle is that, you know, of course, like people, your close friends stuff are always going to big you up, but you kind of have to kind of like just do it more for yourself as
mm,
well. So
yeah.
I think it's just kind of like that's kind of like a thing of just being like, okay, like being too engaged in the online kind of world and and then recognizing, oh no, that's just like a platform, that's just a tool. That's not the reality of what we're all kind of living on a day-to-day basis. We can just, you know, I can just present myself and say, well, look, here's a podcast and stuff, and that's it. And then I think like, well, job done. I'd like tick that box. I think that's kind of bit when I first kind of struggled with actually, it's like the thoughts of actually, are people actually engaging with this and stuff like that, and very kind of like, oh, like the numbers and stuff, how many people listen today or this day, and we've definitely gotten much better of that as well in the past year, and it's gonna be like, you know what, it's established now, man. Just chill, like it's all good. Like, you know, I think that's gonna be one of the struggles, and also to try and get people on board as well. And I thinking like I just probably like just sent loads of messages to people all at once and being like, okay. And I wasn't on Instagram when I started, and it was like Elaine Coville from the Closet Vintage saying, "Oh yeah, I'm on Instagram because this is where I kind of sell my stuff." And I was just like, I said that how it was a really good tool. And I'm like, all right, then let me get on there. And then I think Instagram probably like one of the main things I use now as well. You
Mhm.
know, as I kind of feel like, yeah, it's just been like definitely like, you know, an interesting kind of like journey, especially in terms of like the struggles. Because you're coming to me, I'm coming to this kind of thing. I started as in no one really knew me, and then so they probably had to kind of start like, well, who's this guy? Like, you know, not seeing him about, not seeing him in exhibitions and stuff. I think for me over the years, I kind of just quietly attended things and just kind of just left or just didn't really go and stuff. So I kind of feel like now I feel that, yeah, this, I'm kind of getting to that stage of being like, okay, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. And I think the mutual respect now from other kind of arts and creators is there now within like the northeast of Scotland. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with social media. I think we get too involved into it to the point where
Yeah,
it takes over, that
yeah,
it's like, yeah, exactly what you said. It's not real. Like, it isn't
yeah,
real. But
yeah,
for so many of us, I think because it is it's a tool almost as a way of communicating and connecting,
yeah,
especially now because of the pandemic. Like, I
mhm,
think that's why we care about it so much, that actually it makes an impact with, how many people liked something, how many people follow
yeah,
you, things like this. And that
yeah,
it's sometimes, in certain cases, like the amount of people that you have following you can actually open up more doors to
hmm,
opportunities. So
yeah,
it's a hard one. Like, it's kind of destroying. Like, it's kind of sad, like, that we all
yeah.
have this feeling when we use it, but it's hard not to, if you get me.
Yeah, like for me, yeah, I definitely get you because I kind of like what I see it is now, like it is that kind of tool for engagement for me. It's a tool for engagement and promotion for everything I'm doing. And, of course, like if people see like my Create Me podcast on my feed, it probably would used to be like some stuff like all my stories. I'm a proud father, so I'm also put stuff up with my daughter, like so once in a while, we'll be doing that. And so it's basically it's important to show like the human side or the natural side of me and my personal life, but I don't kind of want to kind of choose to not oversaturate and keep that kind of bit guarded as well, like the private life aspect. So for me, it's definitely like that kind of tool for social media promotion and and also kind of speaking on like important issues as well. So yeah, it's kind of getting that balance because in reality, yeah, when people have kind of contacted me to kind of like kind of do some kind of work or something, it has been through social media. So that's where I kind of think that's getting that kind of balance right.
Yeah, for sure. I also wanted to ask, when it comes to actually editing the podcast, what
Yeah.
kind of software do you use? Like, is it like
Well,
super expensive to do a
no,
podcast,
it's
or
not.
is it very
It's not.
straightforward?
No, it's definitely not because I use like a Chromebook and I use Android devices. So I got a Chromebook that was very much you can sync it to my phone and stuff as well. So I can even edit on my phone. But the program I use was like just from the App Store on like the Play Store on Android. It's called Lexus, and that's what I was using. And it's like a really it's so like really simple. And for me, it's like I'm like a tech kind of novice in terms of like when I started like audio editing, and then I was kind of like just doing that, and then it's actually like last year. Like the episodes I edited, like shout out to Jake Lawson Audio. He's been editing the episodes now since like September time last year. And he's like a really cool guy. I met him at one of the Etsy's, I think it was like in 2018, one of the Christmas ones, and he bought some stuff. And then I think it was like last year as well, we kind of came to the Etsy Anatomy Rooms. And then he said, "Oh yeah, I finished my sound engineering course and I'm happy to kind of like do some editing for you and stuff." I was like, "All right, cool." So and since then, yeah, he's just kind of just been like he's definitely taken it up to the next level in terms of what I was doing. So like I think I don't know what software he's using, but he uses really cool software. We're gonna have a chat this coming week actually about how we can kind of like make some kind of like improved kind of changes in terms of like the podcast. So like shout out to him, Jake, as well, man, because he's been doing really kind of cool stuff with the editing as well.
That's ace. Yeah, because I wondered
Yeah,
if there might be some people that are watching that might be
yeah,
interested in potentially doing their own podcasts. So
yeah,
in that case, do you have any tips or kind of things that folks should be aware
yeah.
of when they're starting out?
I think when you're starting out, definitely practice recording. Don't do what I did, just rush into it and make sure like maybe like get a soundproofed room. Don't have a room with probably too high kind of ceilings and stuff. There's all these kind of things that you can look online, about. It's basically all the things that you should be doing. Like, don't listen to me. Like, I would just listen to me when I say, like, go online and type in how to start a podcast, and you've got like loads of pages that all accounts that just tell you, like, okay, here's like the 10 things you need to do and stuff. Because I kind of like, I did follow some of the rules and stuff online, but when it came to recording, like, the first person I recorded with Gary from Dot Skateboards, like, he was across the other side of the room from me. Yes, he should have been closer for better. Just, you know, should have been better. Recognize that. And then Nathan, from he does the Moodle Collapse podcast, kind of taught me about kind of like sound compression. If it sounds too low, you can take that up a bit as well. And that's what I learned through like the audio kind of like editing suite Lexus, that, you know, you can just change stuff as well. So I think, yeah, it's just kind of like when you kind of start and do your research and actually probably do like a practice kind of conversation with someone. But there's a lot of kind of like now, what's kind of happening a lot now, there's a lot of kind of software that you can use, like what you're using now, Zoom, to like record as well, but it kind of like takes out the audio of the conversation as well, you know. So there's like loads of different kind of like software now that you can just actually use. There's Anchor, that's a really good one. It kind of does everything for you in one place. You can have that on your phone. That's a really cool one that I was kind of just looking into as well. But yeah, there's so many kind of things that you should be doing. Don't follow me, don't rush into it. Do take your time, do a few practice runs, make sure that you're happy with the sound before you kind of put it out as well. I think for me, kind of interesting, I used to be like so kind of like, you know, so with the sound, I used to be like, oh no, it doesn't sound right. And then like my wife would be like, oh no, it sounds cool, sounds fine. But oh no, but, and I'm thinking I'm not like an audio engineer or like technician, but you kind of, every time, everyone I speak to does kind of podcasts and say, oh yeah, you definitely know when you know you're comfortable with it, you're comfortable with it. I think definitely you'll see, if you listen to the podcast from the beginning, you'll see that kind of transition of the change in sound quality from when I started.
I think it's one of those things that you can only really learn when once you get started. Once
Yeah,
you
yeah, definitely.
and learn from how to do that, because I've had the same thing with
Absolutely.
video editing as well, and like hear
Yeah,
sound and I'm like, yeah, I think that's okay, and then once I like render it, I'm like, oh no, it sounds a bit like, you know,
yeah,
don't know what the word is, but fuzzy, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but no, that's super good. And
Mhm.
finally, for you to you, we like to have a
Yeah,
platform so that people can talk about like a particular topic or something
yeah.
that they love or anything. So you have the chance to do that. So here
Okay.
is the platform.
Awesome. Well, so some people who follow me, or if you don't follow me, you'll I have a platform called We Are Here Scotland, in which, you know, I'm trying to kind of just champion Black and minority artists and creators, but also kind of speak about a lot of issues that affect, you know, Black and minority individuals in society. I guess, like, you know, the past kind of like month or so has kind of like highlighted a lot of you know, topics and discussions about like racial kind of inequality, racism, police brutality. So I think like I was on a break from social media and I kind of came back on just recently, just due to health kind of issues. I thought that's just such a right time to kind of speak about these kind of issues about police brutality, racism in general, and how that impacts on me as a Black man, and how it makes me feel, and like, and I think since then, like, there's been a lot of kind of like a lot of people have been receptive to what I'm saying on the platform of like We Are Here Scotland. It's something that's very important to me, because I know for myself, I've been to lots of kind of functions and events in Aberdeen, North East Scotland, predominantly white city. I know that, but then, you know, for me, there is a kind of like things that actually me being self-aware that, oh yes, I'm the only Black person, I'm the only minority in this room, and it's all good. It's all good vibes. They go to these kind of exhibitions or events, but it's just kind of like still there's that kind of thing like for me thinking always that, you know, representation is so important, especially for like the younger generations. So I think with the platform, it's about like, you know, for me to kind of like do stuff like this, have conversations with Black artists and, you know, creators, and get them to kind of want to like talk about their, you know, their process, how it got started, and how, you know, hopefully these conversations, they can like inspire and motivate the younger generation of like Black artists and Black creatives. I think something that's, yeah, it's definitely needed. We're very underrepresented within the creative industries in Scotland and just UK wide. I feel like this kind of platform, still in its early stages, getting the websites getting developed at the moment, but it's just going to be some place where we can let people know about funding opportunities, up and coming events that are coming up. I guess now and kind of like will be probably a lot of online events will be happening now. So if we can be that platform where somebody contacts us and say, hey, I've got like this kind of Zoom kind of like meeting or discussion going on about, that impacts on black and minority artists or very specific to this kind of group of creatives, then yeah, we can promote that on the website as well and also on social media. There's a kind of about like now it's kind of looking into like the kind of like funding options as well. I'm kind of thinking about doing like maybe a GoFundMe as well, because I think it very much so I always kind of said about the kind of valuation of the time for creatives in general, but when black and minority artists and creators are significantly underrepresented, I want to be in a place where we can actually kind of like give some kind of funding, even if it's like a couple of £100 to somebody's kind of art project, or someone has a kind of creative idea. Somebody says, hey, I want to start a podcast and we're based in on the borders, but we're black and we speak about our black experience in the borders, but hey, we can support you like getting the equipment and stuff. I think it's not just about thinking about, even though I've created this platform, but it's about kind of like giving other people a voice within that platform as well. People they can find me like on Instagram, WeAreHereScotland, and I'm speaking about a lot of things that I guess I kind of make these kind of like statements. It's kind of like for people to kind of like take away from that, trying to educate yourself or trying to learn about, okay, why is this person saying this and stuff. And and you'll see stuff on the Instagram stories where I'm sharing about like just the black experience in general, not just within the kind of creative sector as well. So yeah, that's the kind of thing in a long-winded way got to speak about. So thanks for that.
Oh, pleasure. And anytime,
Yeah.
really I'm so happy that we were able to have this conversation, because obviously
Yeah.
at the same time it's been very heated and there's been, for some crazy reason, two different sides when there should really be one side. Yeah, I still don't quite understand why that is. But honestly, and all the stuff that you've been putting up on Instagram as well has been super helpful. I've been reading up myself, trying to see how I can help. And I think acknowledging the white privilege as well, is so crucial to actually being able to be like, we're so sorry, and we didn't even realize this, but now we do. So how can we change? Let's do it. It just comes with people actually being willing and proactive and being like, come on, right? Super appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's the thing as well. Like I always kind of said, I guess sometimes it's on I do it's on Instagram Live sometimes. It's kind of been for black people, we've always kind of been speaking about this, and I think I was saying to a friend recently that this is actually the kind of the first time in my life that I don't feel like I've just come out of a mental institution and somebody's looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm just talking about these issues of being kind of gaslit or othered, or just kind of feeling like my voice is not actually really being heard. And and I guess that's somewhere to kind of start. Some people are just kind of saying, hey, yeah, I love so much things about black culture, music and films and stuff, but but I'm not showing up when this kind of stuff is happening. And I kind of been saying that as well, saying how can you people be so engrossed in black culture but not actually speak out on things that are happening to black people. So I think there's still a long way to go. I always definitely recognize that the change won't kind of happen in my lifetime, but maybe for my daughter's lifetime, or she has children or grandchildren, or happen for them. That's what I'm hopeful for. I can be probably very pessimistic on the current situation as well, and the different kind of routes or discussions, and it can also kind of turn into culture wars. It turns into stuff about statues, and that wasn't the initial kind of discussion before. So I kind of think I tried to kind of not have too much of a pessimistic head on, and actually trying to kind of stay positive about what I can kind of do to kind of in terms of with this kind of ongoing like discussion. That's kind of been ongoing anyway for Black people, and it seems like, you know, we've always been trying to move forward, and now it's just kind of like a lot of like non-Black people just kind of catching up to the conversation. So I think it's like, you know, we'll see what happens, like, you know, in the next few years, because like police brutality is not going to kind of stop, or like the kind of the inequalities, like in like, you know, in like the economic situations or society or legislation and policy, they're not going to change, because it's always like a kind of top down, kind of filter down thing that has to kind of happen. So yeah, you know, I could speak hours and hours upon this kind of like issue.
I wish
But
I
yeah,
could allow it, but Instagram won't allow it anymore, so.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Mm.
like I say, like, thank you so much for opening up and for standing your ground, and like,
Yeah.
let's keep raising you up and your
Mm.
like each other as well, because yeah, it's the only way that we can make change. So
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Yeah.
thank you very much for joining, and
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
it's been a pleasure, really. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Do you have any plans, or are you just chilling for the rest?
Well, actually, I was just cooking like a baby tagine for my daughter. So yeah, that's it. And then probably have a bit more chilled kind of day today.
Good. I'm glad. Well, enjoy
Cheers.
and enjoy your lovely
Cheers.
dinner.
Thanks, Megan.
It's lovely.
Cheers. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.